Hi, friend. I'm Olivia Smith. Thanks for visiting my YouTube channel where I share the latest global news every day. You can also read more news on TimeGlitter.com. You can find all the links in the video description below. In case the link isn't working, simply copy and paste the link into your web browser. Hit enter, and you're good to go. Now let's jump into today's news. News headline: Camera shy versus media hog, dilemma over Biden-Trump coverage amid brutal year for news media. News details: the recent Super Bowl, a major event in the United States, attracted a record number of viewers, making it the most-watched TV broadcast since the moon landing in 1969. For any politician, especially one facing challenges like Joe Biden, it offered an unparalleled opportunity to reach the public. However, President Biden chose not to participate in an interview ahead of the game, despite its massive audience of 123.4 million people. Instead, he opted to engage with younger audiences by joining TikTok, a popular social media platform among teenagers. He posted a lighthearted video complimenting the mother of football player Travis Kelce, who is dating singer Taylor Swift, for her delicious chocolate chip cookies. Criticism is growing towards President Biden for being less accessible to the media compared to past presidents. Data from the nonpartisan White House Transition Project reveals that since taking office, Biden has participated in only 86 interviews, a stark difference from Trump's 300 and Obama's 422 interviews at the same point in their presidencies. Biden's reluctance extends to formal press conferences and joint media events with foreign leaders. Even during German Chancellor Olaf Scholz's recent visit to the White House, no press conference was held. While Biden does occasionally answer spontaneous questions, his avoidance of media engagement frustrates the Washington press corps and raises concerns among Democrats, particularly with re-election on the horizon. Polls indicate that a majority of Americans believe Biden is too old for another term. Bill Galston, a former advisor to President Clinton, believes Biden's reticence is a mistake. He suggests that Biden needs to engage more publicly to dispel doubts about his capability for another term. Galston emphasizes that occasional jokes or denials won't suffice. Biden must actively demonstrate his fitness for office to the American people on a regular basis. Age has become a significant concern in the current election, especially regarding President Biden, who is the oldest person to hold the presidency. According to a Reuters Ipsos poll, 78% of respondents, including 71% of Democrats, believe Biden is too old for government work. In comparison, 53% of respondents feel the same about Trump, who is 77 years old. Nikki Haley, a former rival for the Republican nomination, has suggested both men undergo cognitive tests due to their age. Biden's age came under scrutiny again after a report by special counsel Robert Hur, a Republican and former U.S. attorney, questioned his memory regarding his son's death. Biden refuted these allegations, asserting his memory is intact, but he later made a mistake regarding the presidents of Mexico and Egypt during a speech. The White House criticized the media's coverage of the report, alleging significant errors. The White House Correspondents Association described the criticism as inappropriate. Biden's allies accused the media of applying a double standard, arguing that Trump's remarks about NATO at a rally received less attention than Biden's age. Biden's campaign team highlighted the discrepancy in coverage, noting that major TV networks and newspapers dedicated more time and stories to Biden's age than to Trump's NATO comments. The Politico website reported that the Biden campaign has expressed frustration over the media's handling of Trump's controversial remarks, stating that Trump's frequent gaffes often go underreported due to the normalization of his behavior by political reporters. Trump, despite making recent verbal mistakes himself, selectively engages with media outlets, favoring right-wing platforms for interviews and holding press conferences after legal proceedings. He avoids mainstream networks and newspapers that might challenge his statements. Trump's candidacy poses a dilemma for the media, as coverage of his rallies and tweets in 2016 reportedly provided him with significant free publicity. Kristen Welker, a host on NBC's Meet the Press, notes that there have been changes in media coverage since then, with a greater awareness of the need for scrutiny and verification before reporting on Trump's statements. We no longer do that. We take a beat, whether it's a tweet, whether it's a speech. Do we carry it live? Do we carry it on tape and do playback and do fact-checking along the way? I think there have been a number of changes in that regard. However, there is now concern that the media's response may swing too far in the opposite direction, with Trump's rallies receiving minimal coverage. While this approach aims to prevent his falsehoods from spreading, it also poses risks. Some journalists caution that this could lead voters to overlook the extremism and dangers of Trump's agenda for a potential second term. Chris Hayes, a host on MSNBC, argued recently that Trump has paradoxically benefited from major networks no longer airing his speeches live and from social networks banning him. The more voters hear from him, the less they like him, he said. Hayes acknowledged that paying attention to Trump is tiresome, but he stressed the importance of reminding Americans who he is, which could be vital in safeguarding American democracy from his efforts to undermine it. However, Galston cautioned that increasing coverage of Trump can have unintended consequences. The problem is that what people on MSNBC regard as crazy and off-putting may be attractive to those inclined in that direction. The notion that seeing Trump leads to disliking Trump reflects a somewhat limited perspective. Some analysts suggest that the media should shift focus away from the traditional competition between candidates and instead emphasize the potential impact on American democracy. Jay Rosen, a journalism professor at New York University, encapsulated this sentiment. Not the odds, but the stakes. Donna Brazile, former interim chairperson of the Democratic National Committee, pointed out that the media closely followed polling for the 2022 and 2023 elections, only to be surprised by Democrats' success at the ballot box. Therefore, concerns about Biden's age, approval rating, and media strategy may be exaggerated. It's one thing if Joe Biden had Donald Trump's track record of party leadership and frequent losses. Then I could understand the constant second-guessing of the strategy. But the reality is that the media is playing the old-school game, focusing on horse race numbers to drive coverage, Brazile remarked. Every time we see a New York 3rd congressional district, Pennsylvania special election, or Wisconsin special election, we seem surprised. But it's not the candidates who are undermined. It's the media coverage that's undermining itself. I suspect many in the media haven't ventured far from their newsrooms or living rooms, but the good news is, the American people understand what's at stake. Despite a strong economy, historic legislation, and global solidarity against Russia, many Democrats are puzzled by polls showing Biden's struggles. The president is increasingly focused on contrasting himself with Trump, but some commentators caution against blaming the messenger. Larry Jacobs, director of the Center for the Study of Politics and Governance at the University of Minnesota, remarked, "Blaming the media is often just a way to shift blame. After all, Biden was the one who confused the presidents of Egypt and Mexico. That wasn't the media. The media industry in America is facing tough times." The Washington Post anticipates a $100 million loss, while the Los Angeles Times, Wall Street Journal, and Business Insider have all made significant job cuts. The online news site The Messenger abruptly shut down, leaving hundreds without insurance or severance. Many local and regional newspapers are struggling or closing down, and public trust in the media has hit a historic low. Jacobs emphasized the importance of media scrutiny in safeguarding democracy, but noted that the most economically viable media tends to prioritize sensationalism over accuracy. Don't forget to hit the like button, drop a comment, share with others, and subscribe